In our last lecture, we learned how to filter out results by some condition. We did that by only implementing one condition into the where clause. However, in the real life, picking up results just by one condition is quite rare. We are doing that by multiple conditions. And this is where the Boolean logic comes. Let's check the following slide. In my table, I have a complete representation of Boolean logic for and or operators. On the left-hand side, for the Boolean expression, is the combination of two conditions. And on the right side, I have a representation of a query, where I'm querying x from x table, and the condition is where the x is greater than 10 and or less than 20. So for example, if we have a row where x is 15, so my left condition where the x is greater than 10, that's gonna be true, right? And we are using the AND operator and checking the right condition. 15 is less than 20, and right side is also true. The result is gonna be true, as in x is gonna be fetched from that query. For the second row in my table, let's take example if a row in a table is 25. For the left-hand side of the where clause, 25 is greater than 10, and this is true. We're picking up again the AND operator, but the x is not less than 20, since 25 is greater than 20. And this is gonna be false. And the result is not gonna be returned. On the other side, if we are using the OR operator, only one condition has to be met for the row to be returned. So for example, if our x in the table has a value of 25, which means it is greater than 10, so the left-hand side is true, but it's less than 20, which means false, but the result is going to be returned because only one of the conditions is met. Before we proceed to some examples to clarify the Boolean logic in the where clause, this table you will have to practically remember. And an easy way to remember it is to use or to think about the AND operator as multiplication, and for the OR operator as addition. So for example, if I multiply a positive integer with a positive integer, the result is going to be positive integer. But if I multiply a positive integer with a 0, the result is always going to be a 0. The same goes the other way around. And of course, if I multiply a 0 with a 0, the result is going to be 0. For the OR operator, if we think of it as addition, if I add a positive integer with a positive integer, the result is going to be positive integer. If I add positive integer to a 0, our result is going to be positive integer. Only in case if I add a 0 to 0, result is going to be 0. Let's go now to our example and clarify a little bit more on the real example. Again, I'm connected on my HR schema and I'm querying the employees table. In the query presented over here, I'm fetching rows from the table where the employee has been hired later than 23rd of February 2005. Let's execute this. And as we can see, we have 78 results. But what if I want to filter out by a second condition? If I want to filter out where I want only employees which have salary greater than 10,000. This is where the Boolean operator comes. So my where clause is going to be expanded with AND salary greater than 10,000. Let's execute this. And I have only 6 rows returned. Now we can see each of these employees has a salary greater than 10,000 and it's hired later than 23rd of February 2005. Every condition, both the hire date and salary for a row, need to be met when I'm using the AND operator. If I would switch that with an OR operator, any of the condition, if met, a row is going to be returned, regardless if a hire date is higher than 23rd February 2005 or the salary is higher than 10,000. Let's replace the AND with OR and let's execute this. As we can see, Even on our first row, hire date is not later than 2005, but the salary is 24,000. So only one condition is met. On our fourth row, we can see the salary is not higher than 10,000, but the hire date is later than 2005. So only one of the conditions needs to be met. An important thing to remember with and or operators is the precedence. And when I compare them with multiplication and addition operations, the same rules, like in arithmetics, apply for the and or operators over here. Let's revert our query, where I'm fetching employees with a hire date later than 23rd of February 2005 and with a salary greater than 10,000. What if I add an or operator and the first name to be as William? Now, any of the following has to be met. It has to have hire date later than and salary greater than, or they have to be just named William. And that's it. Let's execute this. As we can see, we got additional 2 rows. If I check the William rows, those two, we can see the name is William, which is correct, but the last William doesn't have the date later than 2003 or the salary. So the logic returned true. When comparing with the arithmetics, we can add brackets to make it much easier for us to understand. So when using the AND operator with the brackets, the logic would be as following. First, check these conditions, and after that, check the following. Right? And this is completely the same for the where clause with and or operators. As we can see, the results are the same. If I want to change the precedence, same as with in arithmetics, I can do that with the brackets, because the condition or the expression in the brackets will have to be executed first. So if I replace the brackets, for example, I move it that the hire date has to be later than 2005, and salary has to be greater than 10,000, or an employee has to have a first name as William. Let's execute this. As we can see, one William has now been lost, as our result have to have a hire date later than 23rd of February 2005, and a salary greater than 10,000, or an employee has to be named as William, which is meant. Very important to try out with some examples, especially with the provided ones that are under the resources of this lesson, and try it out for yourself. Try to make a simple table and try to query from it with different and or operators, so you understand which rows are going to be returned. This is not all for the where clause, and we'll continue on the next lesson. See ya.